I'm Bonnie. I'm sitting in my Tribeca apartment, sipping a glass of 2015 Chateau Margaux that cost $850. The Hermes Birkin bag, which I bought for $47,000, sits on the counter, a symbol of my real, not fake, life. Just a few hours ago, I was at a Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and it was a night that changed everything. My family has always underestimated me. My sister, Lily, is 35 and married into a wealthy family. She spends her days on charity boards, looking down on my life. My father, Robert, is a 60-year-old corporate lawyer who's always been focused on his career and his idea of success. My mother, Emily, is 58 and has always followed my father's lead in terms of judging others. And my brother-in-law, Jake, is a 37-year-old who seems uncomfortable in family feuds. At the Thanksgiving table, Lily kept eyeing my Birkin bag. "Nice bag," she said, with that false sweetness in her voice. "Is it a Canal Street special?" Everyone at the table burst into cruel laughter. My father nearly choked on his wine, and my mother covered her mouth, her eyes full of amusement. Jake joined in, but he looked a bit uneasy. My mother said, "Lily, be nice. But honey, you should be more careful with those knock-offs. They can spot them from afar at country clubs." I just silently cut into my turkey, not wanting to engage at first. Lily continued, emboldened by the family's reaction. "Bonnie, this whole thing you've been doing lately, the designer clothes, the expensive restaurants you post about on Instagram, the trips to Paris. It's embarrassing. We all know you work at a non-profit making $65,000 a year. It's getting concerning." My father added with a tone of paternal worry, "Are you in debt? Pretending to be wealthy when you clearly aren't isn't healthy." I took a sip of water and said, "I'm not in debt." Lily pressed, "Then how can you afford all this? Unless you married a secret millionaire, and let's face it, you're still single. The math doesn't add up." Just then, my phone buzzed on the table. It was from Mr. Thompson, the chief legal counsel of MedTech Innovations, the medical device company my grandfather, Henry, founded 60 years ago. The message read, "Miss Bonnie, confirming your order to sell 51% controlling shares of MedTech Innovations stock. Transaction will execute Monday 9 a.m. Unless you cancel by Sunday midnight. Current value, $102 million. I set the phone face down and continued eating. Lily said, "See, even her phone is probably fake. That's a real iPhone, but I bet the designer apps and screenshots are just for show." What they didn't know was that MedTech Innovations was currently worth $200 million, and I owned 51% of it. My grandfather, Henry, was a maverick in his generation. A brilliant inventor, he created a revolutionary cardiac monitoring device in the 1960s. He built MedTech from the ground up, ignoring his family's advice to pursue more traditional careers like law or banking. When he died 7 years ago, he left the controlling shares to me. Not to my father, who'd spent 40 years in corporate law and had no interest in the family business. Not to Lily, who was more concerned with her social status. He left it to me, the youngest and quietest one, who'd listened to his stories and understood his work. The will stated, "To Bonnie, who inherited my curiosity rather than my family's arrogance, I leave controlling interest in MedTech Innovations. May she build something worthy of the name." My family was furious. It wasn't that they wanted the company, they just felt slighted because the will clearly said Grandpa thought I was more capable than them. The board of MedTech tried to buy me out right away. I was 25, fresh out of grad school with a biomedical engineering degree. They thought I'd take the money and run. But I kept the shares and joined the board as a silent observer. Over the past 7 years, I watched, learned, and used my controlling interest to block bad decisions and push for strategic improvements. Under my hidden influence, the company's value grew from $120 million to $200 million. The board thought they were making brilliant decisions, but in reality, I was the one guiding the ship from the shadows. I used my dividend payments, about $4 million annually, to live comfortably while working at a non-profit that I was passionate about. My non-profit salary was real, but everything else was funded by the company my family dismissed as Grandpa's little gadget business. Lily continued her rant. I think you're catfishing your own life. You're creating a fake persona online, buying knock-off bags, and taking photos in hotel lobbies you're not staying at. I calmly said, last month, I was staying at the Ritz-Carlton. The presidential suite, 5 nights at $3,400 per night. The table went silent. My mother said gently, Bonnie, this is exactly what we're talking about. These fantasies. I added, I also had dinner at the French Laundry. Sat at the chef's table. $650 per person plus wine pairings. My father's expression changed from amusement to concern. Bonnie, are you hearing yourself? These expenses are more than your monthly salary. I said, is this what you're going to say? That I'm delusional? My father replied, I was going to say it's worrying. Lily's right. Pretending to live a lifestyle you can't afford isn't healthy. Are you in therapy? My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mr. Thompson confirmed that my 51% share sale would trigger mandatory buyout offers to the remaining shareholders. My father owned 8% of the company, worth about $16 million. Lily owned 3%, around $6 million, and my mother owned 2%, about $4 million. They'd received notice on Monday morning. I picked up my wine glass and took a slow sip of the $200 Bordeaux my father had been bragging about. It was good, but I'd had better at a private wine dinner in Sonoma last spring. Lily said with that syrupy concern, we love you, Bonnie. We're worried about you. This whole pretending to have money is sad. You're smart and do good work at your non-profit. Why isn't that enough? I said, I'm not pretending. Lily flatly said, the bag is fake. I've seen enough real Birkins to know. I replied, it's real. I bought it at the Hermes store on 5th Avenue in August. Would you like to see the receipt? She scoffed, anyone can fake a receipt. I pulled out my phone and said, call the store. Ask for Mr. Davis. He's the manager. Tell him Bonnie wants to confirm her purchase. He'll remember. I also bought the matching wallet and a Kelly bag in black. Lily's smile faltered a bit. I'm not calling. I said, because you're afraid I'm telling the truth. You'd rather believe I'm delusional than accept that I might actually have money. My father said firmly, Bonnie, enough. These games aren't helping. Your sister is trying to help you, and you're being defensive. That's a sign of. I interrupted, of what, Dad? He exchanged glances with my mother and said, of someone losing touch with reality. Someone who's built an elaborate fantasy and can't tell it from the truth. I set down my fork carefully. My family watched me with expressions ranging from pity to concern to barely hidden satisfaction. Lily looked like she'd won. I said, can I tell you all a story? 7 years ago, Grandpa Henry died. You all came to the will reading expecting him to leave everything to Dad, maybe with some small trusts for the grandchildren. Instead, he left 51% controlling interest in medtech innovations to me. Do you remember? My father said stiffly, of course we remember. It was a mistake. He was old and confused. We considered contesting it, but I finished, but the will was ironclad. And he had 3 separate psychiatric evaluations in the months before he died, all confirming he was of sound mind. He knew exactly what he was doing. Lily said he was being vindictive. He was angry at Dad for not joining the business, so I corrected, he was being strategic. He left the company to the person he thought could protect it. And for 7 years, I have. My father laughed, protected it? Bonnie, you've barely been involved. The board runs that company. You just collect a small dividend and I repeated, a small dividend? Dad, do you know what the dividend payment is on 51% of a $200 million company? It's roughly $4 million per year. After taxes, I take home about $2.7 million annually. That's what I've been living on for 7 years while working at the non-profit because I enjoy the work. My mother's face went pale. My father said, the company isn't worth $200 million. I replied, it's worth $203 million as of market close yesterday. It was worth $120 million when Grandpa died. I've helped grow it 69% by using my controlling interest to block stupid decisions and push smart ones. The board thinks they're geniuses, but they have no idea I've been guiding every major decision for 7 years. Jake spoke up for the first time. The dividend payment on those shares would be public record. If you actually owned 51% of MedTech Innovations. I said, under the name the Henry Trust, Grandpa set it up to protect my privacy. The trust owns the shares, and I control the trust. It's all legal and properly filed, but it's a bit opaque unless you know what to look for. I pulled up my phone and showed them the email from Mr. Thompson confirming my order to sell the shares. Lily said, that's fake, but her voice wavered. I said, call Mr. Thompson. His office number is public. Call him right now and ask if he represents the Henry Trust. Nobody moved. I continued, wait until Monday morning. When my sale goes through, company bylaws trigger mandatory buyout offers to all remaining shareholders. Dad, you own 8% of MedTech, about $16 million in stock. Lily, you own 3%, around $6 million. Mom, you own 2%, $4 million. These were Grandpa's gifts to you, smaller than mine but still substantial. My father's voice was a whisper, you're saying we own millions in company stock? I said, you've owned it for 7 years, the same 7 years you've been receiving quarterly dividend payments. Dad, you get about $640,000 per year. Lily, about $240,000. Mom, $160,000. Surely you've noticed those deposits. My father's face went from pale to red. I said, those deposits are from your active shareholding in a $200 million company. You never bothered to read the documentation carefully. You just assumed it was a minor inheritance payout, not an ongoing dividend from active shares. Lily's hands were shaking. If we own millions in stock, why didn't anyone tell us? I said, the documentation was sent to you 7 years ago. Annual reports every year, quarterly statements. You all signed the shareholder agreements and voted by proxy on board decisions. You just never paid attention because you dismissed MedTech as Grandpa's little gadget business. My mother stood up abruptly, her napkin falling to the floor. This is insane. If you actually owned 51% of a $200 million company, why would you sell it? I said, gesturing at the table, because of this. I've spent 7 years listening to you all call me delusional, broke, and mentally unstable for living within my means. Lily just spent 20 minutes mocking my fake designer bag while sitting on millions in assets she didn't know she had. Dad was about to stage an intervention for my fantasies while cashing dividend checks he never bothered to understand. The dining room was silent except for the ticking of the antique clock on the mantel. I said, yes, I'm selling my 51% controlling interest for $102 million after taxes to a private equity firm that's been trying to buy the company for 3 years. When I do, the buyout triggers will force you all to either sell your shares or become minority shareholders in a company now controlled by strangers who won't be as gentle as I was. My father sank into his chair. Bonnie, you can't. The company is our family legacy. I corrected, it was Grandpa's legacy. He left it to me because he knew I'd protect it. For 7 years, I did. I guided it, grew it, and made it more valuable. And now I'm done. Monday morning, I'm executing the sale unless. Lily whispered, unless what? I stood up, picking up my Hermes bag. Unless between now and Sunday at midnight I change my mind. But to do that, I'd need a reason. I'd need my family to acknowledge that maybe I'm not delusional. That maybe I've been successful in ways you never bothered to notice because you were too busy assuming I was failing. I walked towards the door and then turned back. The bag is real. The Ritz-Carlton stay was real. The French Laundry dinner was real. The private wine dinner in Sonoma was real. The trip to Paris was for a medtech board meeting. I attended remotely but stayed an extra week for the fashion shows. All of it was real, funded by the dividends from the company Grandpa trusted me to protect. My mother stood up and said, "Bonnie, wait. We didn't know. If we'd known." I asked, "You would have paid attention? You would have taken me seriously?" "Mom, you receive quarterly statements from MedTech. So does Dad. So does Lily. None of you ever read them. None of you ever asked questions. You just assumed your small dividend payments were the extent of your involvement and never looked deeper." My father said urgently, "We'll look now. Let's call Mr. Thompson right now. Let's sort this out. Don't make rash decisions because of a bad Thanksgiving dinner." I repeated, "A bad Thanksgiving dinner? Dad, this isn't about one dinner. This is about 7 years of being treated like I'm mentally unstable for living a life you didn't bother to understand. 7 years of interventions and concerned looks and suggestions that I get therapy for my delusions, all while I was protecting your financial interests and growing your assets by tens of millions of dollars." My phone buzzed again. A text from Mr. Thompson said, "The board is concerned about Monday's transaction. They've asked if you're willing to meet this weekend to discuss alternatives. Private dinner, just you and the executive team. They're hoping to present a counter offer to keep you engaged." I showed the text to my father. "The board wants to take me to dinner this weekend. They value my involvement. They understand my worth. Can my own family say the same?" Jake spoke up carefully, "Bonnie, if everything you're saying is true, and I'm starting to think it is, then I owe you an apology. We all do. But selling out of anger isn't." I said, "It's not anger. It's exhaustion. I'm tired of being dismissed. I'm tired of proving myself to people who should have believed in me from the start. Grandpa knew what he was doing when he left me those shares. He knew I had what it took. I wish my parents had known it, too." I walked to the door and paused. "You have until Sunday at midnight to convince me not to sell. That's roughly 63 hours. In that time, you might want to actually read your shareholder documentation. Understand what you own. Understand what you've been benefiting from for 7 years. And maybe understand that your delusional daughter has been the most financially successful person in this family for the past 7 years and you never noticed because you were too busy mocking her handbag." I left them at the Thanksgiving table and drove back to my apartment in my Tesla Model S, which Lily had previously said was probably leased to look impressive. My phone started ringing immediately, first my father, then my mother, then Lily. I silenced them all and poured myself a glass of wine. I sat there, thinking about Grandpa Henry. He died believing I would protect the company, and I did. But he also wanted me to be happy, recognized, and valued. "Use the power I'm giving you," he'd said. "Not just to protect the company, but to protect yourself. Don't let them make you small." For 7 years, I'd let them make me small. Then, I started getting voicemails. My father said, "Bonnie, I just spent the past hour on the phone with Mr. Thompson and our family attorney. Everything you said checks out. You own 51% of a company worth $203 million. You've been the controlling shareholder for 7 years. Your mother and I have been receiving $640,000 annually without understanding where it came from or what it meant. Sweetheart, I don't know what to say. I've been so focused on my career, on what I thought success looked like, that I never stopped to understand what you'd built. Your grandfather was right about you. He saw something I was too blind to see. Please don't sell the company. Not yet. Give us a chance to understand. Give me a chance to be the father who supports his daughter instead of dismissing her. You have until Sunday at midnight. I'm asking you to wait. I'm asking for a chance to see you clearly. Lily's voicemail said, Bonnie, I'm so sorry. I was jealous. You're living this amazing life and I've been sitting here married to Jake's family money, playing charity board games, pretending to be important. You're actually important. You're actually successful. And instead of being happy for